Hello everyone, my name is Risha and today's video is going to be a reading vlog. I haven't done a vlog on this channel for a while and I have been reading quite a lot in the last 2 months, so I decided to start vlogging. And of course, as soon as I did, I think I'm in a reading slump already. So I read 8 books in the months of January and February, which is a solid start for me. I am postpartum and with the baby all day. So reading isn't as easier as it used to be. But the last 2 books which I read were Sweet Bean Paste by Dorian Sukigawa and a book You Wish Your Parents Had Read by Philippa Perry. One of them was fiction, the other was nonfiction. I was reading them simultaneously and then sort of finished both of them on the same day. After I finished those books, I started reading A Little Luck by Claudia Pinheiro. She's an Argentine writer. It's a translated piece of literature. It was originally written in Spanish. I found it on Libby from my local library. I did start a reading challenge to read a book from every country in the world. So when I found out about Charco Press, it is a publishing house, I think here in London, if I'm not wrong. Maybe I am. I'm not sure where it's based in. But it's a publishing house which specializes in publishing books from Latin American authors. And I was like, okay, this is great. All I need to do is just go on their website and find out books from different Latin American countries. I've almost read 100 pages of the book. It is almost 300 pages long. I'm reading it on my phone as an ebook. The story starts with this woman who's traveling from Boston to Argentina. What's the name of the city? Something happened 20 years ago, which she hasn't told the reader yet, but it's so slowly sort of unraveling. And the writing is very, very beautiful. I was just struggling with because the story was not really starting in the initial 50 pages. And I was just like, should I continue reading this? And then I saw a few reviews on BookTube and I was like, there's high praise for this book. Let me just continue. So I'm now on page 100 and hopefully I'm over the initial slow part of the book and I can just get into it now. So that's the first book I'm reading for now. You'll probably be hearing lots of shrieking in the background because someone has discovered his voice. And because I was struggling a little bit with A Little Luck, I thought I should just start reading this because it's a short book and it wouldn't hopefully worsen my reading slump. So I'm reading this currently. And then I'm reading a non-fiction, which I'm not sure if anyone would be interested, but because it's Ramadan Mubarak. But I started reading this book, Tuhfatul Urus, The Bride's Boon by Mahmoud al-Istanbuli, translated by Abdul Hamid Aliwa from Al-Azhar University, which is in Egypt. Gee. I was given this book as a gift from a cousin when I got married, and it's a collection of Quranic verses and prophetic narrations about getting married, being married, about the role of husband and wife, having children, those sorts of things. I was reading bits and pieces of this book for years, but I just want to, just go through all of it now. just wanted to update you about my reading so far. I think it's 2 days since I last filmed, but I did finish two of the books I was reading. So I finished reading The Little Prince, and I also finished reading A Little Luck. Very different books. So I read The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but it's a French name. This is a children's classic translated by Irene Destot-Ferry. Now, I didn't like it. I've given it a 2-star, and I was surprised by how much I did not like it. I was really excited about it. I mean, I know one really famous Bollywood actress was like, this is my favorite book ever and it's so good. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm gonna read it. And then you go on Goodreads and there are like 2507,437 ratings. Is it 2 million? Is it 2 million ratings? So it's a lot. 250. Oh my god, that's a lot of, I don't even know how to say that. And 86,000 reviews, and the average rating is 4.33. And if I go on all my friends and followers reviews, everyone has rated it so highly, and I did not like it at all. I mean, I like the first page where there's, you know, that boa constrictor and the hat drawing, this one, but that's it. Like the rest of it, I sat down and read it in like a go. I read like 15-20 pages, then I stopped, and then I sat down again at night and I started it from the beginning, just so you know I was in the rhythm of it, and then I just read it in one go. It's not too long, it's 100 pages, and it's not like full texts of pages. There are like illustrations in the book which are crappy. But I thought it was just like such a overhyped book. Like, there wasn't anything in particular I liked about it. There was like, the author used the N-word, and this isn't like an old book. This was first published in 1943. And then I find out about this guy, that he was like this rich French person who was then exiled from France, was living in the US, was a pilot, and then was commissioned to write a children's book, and just sort of, you know, had to write it as a big old man, and not old, but you know, like an adult. And the way he talks about children and adults in this book just seemed a bit off. The story was trying too hard and it just felt so flat. It was trying to come across as deep and meaningful allegories, presenting itself as though it's explaining something really profound, but actually it just isn't. The rose, it's like this rose, this random rose, I don't know, and they're in a desert in the Sahara, and then there's this prince who's like on random planets, and like, I mean, I understand fantasy, but this was just like, what was it? I'm not even sure I would have liked it as a child. I wouldn't recommend it to any children or any adults. Anyways, I'm glad I've read it, because now I can just move on with life. And then after I read this book, I finished reading a translated piece of fiction which I had started, called A Little Luck by Claudia Pinheiro, translated by Frances Riddle. Claudia Pinheiro is a mystery thriller writer from Argentina who writes in Spanish, but this book is translated into English by Charco Press, which is a publishing house, I found out, based in Edinburgh in the UK. And I've finished reading this book. I've added it to the list of books I'm reading for every country in the world challenge. I gave this book a 4-star. It wasn't the kind of book I usually read. Like, this was a tragedy. This was like, you know, when you're talking about Shakespeare's plays, there's either a comedy or a tragedy. This was a tragedy. It was very sad, heart-touching story. And I was like, why am I reading a sad book? The world is already in such a sad and terrible state, and I'm reading another book to make myself sad. It was a really heart touching story, especially towards the end. Like, I was just like choked up with tears. The reason I gave it like a 4 star is because even though it was a short book, like maybe 250 pages or something, I just felt the pace was too slow for me. Like, I was just like, okay, what else? Like, moving on, what happens next? But it was definitely worth the read, especially if you're looking for like an Argentine author. I would recommend this book, especially if you like thriller mystery kind of book. There were like a few quotes in here which I really liked, which I would like to share. So, like the opening of the book, there was this quote from The Children's Stay by Alice Munro, which is a book now I'm interested in because the opening of this book had a paragraph from The Children's Stay, and it's something like this. This is acute pain. It will become chronic. Chronic means that it will be permanent, but perhaps not constant. It may also mean that you won't die of it. You won't get free of it, but you won't die of it. You won't feel it every minute, but you won't spend many days without it. And you'll learn some tricks to dull it or banish it, trying not to end up destroying what you incurred this pain to get. I really like that quote because, I mean, I've seen people struggle with chronic pain, and it's no joke. Like, acute pain, it sort of is there, and then it's sort of, there's an end in sight. But chronic pain, it's just there with you. This quote obviously wasn't from Claudia Pinero. This was like from Alice Munro, but it was the beginning of the book. I came because I wanted to see you, to say hello, and most of all, to hear from you how you're doing. Such a basic thing, sometimes all you need is presence and an ear. You don't need anything else. You don't need suggestions or compliments or fixing things. You just need, someone to see you, to say hello. And then I like this other quote, which was like, between mother and child is a lover's discourse to be decoded, the first of them all, the one by which we measure all other messages. Again, this was really nice. The third one is a bit longer. Things happen so quickly that the words needed to describe them are never able to keep up. Just as it can take years for fleeting events to be forgotten, sometimes those memories will never fade. An instant can stay with us our entire lives, relived in words 1,000 times over like a punishment. Time is compressed, and the narration of that time has to expand it to make it comprehensible. I was like on the website for Charco publishers, like looking for books to read next, because I was like totally amazed by what they're doing. They're just like publishing Latin American literature into English for like English speaking audience, and I love it because I would never have been able to know about these authors, these stories, these books otherwise. And because it's Ramadan, I wanted to read a religious non-fiction. So like I picked up this book, which has been on my shelf for a long time. It's called Tuhfatul Urus, The Bride's Boon. So this is a collection of Quranic verses and prophetic hadiths about women. And this is almost 300 pages long, and I'm only left with the 40 pages of this book now. But the thing I'm missing here is that there's a bit of less context behind the verses and the hadith, so I would have preferred if they just told a bit of backstory. This book was like a good thing to read on International Women's Day, where there's this idea that Muslim women need liberation. So this was like a good reminder of what real Islam says about women and their rights, and do they need liberation. Interesting read, especially for the current times. So hopefully I will finish this today. That's the plan. Went into like a slump after I finished The Little Prince and A Little Luck, and I was like, okay, what next? I need something. And there was this big urge to find distraction in books, right now because I was really disturbed by what's going on in the war in Iran. I went to my bookshelf looking for something to take my mind off news, but what I was drawn towards were like all the non-fiction political books, and I was like, okay, maybe I am the kind of person who needs to understand things, and with the current political climate, maybe I need books to understand what to make of everything. I picked up An Ordinary Person's Guide to Empire by Arundhati Roy. This is a collection of 14 essays by Arundhati Roy, but it basically talks about, the threat of corporate power and media and communal politics in India. There's another book on my TBR by Arundhati Roy, which is her biography that just came out. I mean, the waiting list for that book in my library is so long. It has been long listed for Women's Prize for Nonfiction 2026, and it's called Mother Mary Comes to Me by Arundhati Roy, and it's a book about her complex relationship with her mother. So that book is definitely on my TBR, but because I don't have that with me at the moment, I'm just gonna wait and hopefully I'll get the book from my library soon, or else I'll just end up buying it and reading it. So this was an option to read, and then I went to Prisoners of Geography, 10 Maps That Tell You Everything You Need to Know About Global Politics by Tim Marshall. I just think you really need to be careful when you're reading history and political books because you need to know who is writing them. And then the third book on which I picked, which I thought was a good pick for current times, was Noam Chomsky's Hopes and Prospects. I haven't read from this author ever. This is his only book on my TBR, like on my physical TBR. So I started reading it yesterday. Now, I understand that Chomsky is under a bit of... he's made headlines basically because of his connection to Epstein files. He's an American activist and political thinker. He's written lots and lots of books. I was having a look through his connection to Epstein files, and there's no picture evidence or anything. It's just email communication between Epstein and him. I've read the statement his wife has issued. This book, Hopes and Prospects, is a collection of essays, and the first one I'm reading is Year 514, Globalization for Whom? And I've read 20 pages so far. There's this huge influx of information about Haiti, and I was like, I have no clue about Haiti. So as you do when your baby's sleeping, I started reading about Haiti and its history. I was amazed. First, I felt sad that, I'm a 33-year-old woman who considers herself, aware, but has no idea about Haiti. So it was just like a reality check for me that there's lots I need to know about, and maybe I might not be able to know about a lot of things, but this is important. So I learned that Haiti was one of the first countries where slave rebellion led to the independence. And because of that, they have had so many challenges. They were not recognized for years by the US. France sort of tried to get the land back, and then there was they were then indebted. There was like lots of wars, civil unrest, and according to Chomsky, a lot of that unrest was because of these foreign interventions. Now I'm really, really interested in reading a book from a person from Haiti. So I was looking up recommendations for books from Haiti, and there were a few, especially on TikTok. Like booktok is really good. I mean, I don't feel like booktube is anywhere as good as where booktok is at the moment. I just feel like YouTube has become this shallow aesthetics place, whereas booktok is now more, contemporary and challenging narratives. But anyways, I found a few book recommendations for Haiti on booktok, but I'm having difficulty in finding them in my library or in bookstores. But if you have any recommendations, I'm now invested in reading from South America and the Caribbean because there's a lot of history from those places which I have no clue about, and now I'm interested. And because I started reading a nonfiction book, I was like, now I need a fictional read to keep me company. So I started searching for a book which I could read from Charco Press. And so I have picked up my next read, which I was able to get from my library. So yay! So the book which I have picked up is called Untold Micocosms. It's a collection of Latin American writers, like sort of short stories, essays in the British Museum. These have been translated, so let me tell you about the book. It's not that long, 151 pages. Collection, Colonialism, Translation, and the Ephemera that shapes the stories we tell about ourselves. Featuring works from all these various authors, the Central and South American collection at the British Museum Collections contains approximately 62,000 objects spanning 10,000 years of human history. The vast majority cannot be displayed, and those objects are the subject of untold microcosms. Oh my god, was I saying the name of the book wrong? Microcosms. So the name of the book is Untold Microcosms, not Untold Microsomes. Can you tell I'm a doctor? I was reading it as microsomes. A collection of 10 stories from 10 Latin American writers and inspired by the narratives about our past that we create through museums in spite of their gaps and disarticulations. This sounded fun and relevant and intentional. I was, again, as I said, I'm gonna be a bit more intentional with my reading this year. I do want to say that both my current reads are a bit heavy, and I would really want to read something lighter, and that's why I picked up The Little Prince, but that was a complete disappointment. But if there are any recommendations for like fun, light read to go along with these heavier books, I would be happy to have them. So I hope you enjoy this video, and if you do, please don't forget to like this video, comment down below any suggestions for light reads, and subscribe to my channel if you're new here and would like to see more videos like this. And I will see you all in my next video very, very soon. Bye.